Welcome to November's edition of Kids Kits, brought to you by the Land Connection. My name is Ann Swanson, and I have my sous chef, Brielle Molina, helping us today. Today, Brielle, what are we talking about?
Squash.
Squash. How many different types of squash are there? Can you name them?
No.
Well, what are we working with today?
Squash.
What kind is this? Do you know?
No.
This is a special kind of squash called butternut squash. And butternut squash is pretty cool because it's in season now, which means it's like a fallish, late fall squash. You can tell the difference between butternut squash and other kinds of squash because it has this deep orange color in the middle. And then on the outside, it has this long neck and a bulb with some seeds in the bottom of it. Today we're making, what are we making today?
Squash.
Squash what?
I don't know.
Squash quesadillas. Do you like quesadillas?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Quesadillas are a very easy dish to recreate at home. They're fun, they're versatile. So our squash has already been cut in half long ways and the top has been cut. Now we're going to take this bulb part and cut that away from the neck.
And did you also know it's another I can't say it, but it's another variety of a pumpkin.
I did not know that. Where did you hear that?
Mystery science from school.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, you know the inside of the butternut squash kind of looks like a pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had pumpkin quesadilla?
No.
I bet we should try that next. That sounds pretty good.
Oh yeah, that does.
So butternut squash has seeds, like pumpkin seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever eaten pumpkin seeds?
Yeah, they're really good.
They are really good. Have you ever eaten butternut squash seeds?
No.
You can eat butternut squash seeds and roast them just like pumpkin seeds. Put on a little cayenne pepper, a little chili powder. This butternut squash has already been de-seeded, so we won't be able to try it this time, but that might be a good idea for the next time we do a kids kit. So all I'm doing right now is taking my chef's knife and just peeling the outside. Okay, I'm gonna peel the outside of this. Now that we have the squash peeled, I'm gonna chop while you get our skillet ready, okay? So go ahead, I have 1 tablespoon of butter in there and I'm gonna add a little bit of oil to it too so we get a nice browning effect on our butternut squash. Okay, so sous chef, please turn on the burner on high. Good job. And then I'm gonna have you add 1 tablespoon of olive oil, which is about a capful. Now, while my sous chef is doing that, I'm gonna cut the butternut squash up into small pieces. Now, the smaller the pieces you cut your butternut squash into, the faster it will cook, so keep that in mind. The recipe says to start to brown it in the skillet and then throw it in a 350-degree oven. Perfect. But I'm gonna cut mine into a little bit smaller pieces for the sake of time. And we're gonna try to cook it all in the skillet. Can you smell the butternut squash?
Mm-hmm.
It smells a little bit like pumpkin.
It's starting to melt.
Oh, good. Okay, well once the butter is all the way melted, we're gonna throw in our butternut squash. So let me know when that's time.
So you kind of want to move the butter around so it scatters around the pan and gets the oil everywhere. So it starts to cook the butternut squash.
Good job, sous chef. Excellent. Can you talk about the spices we're gonna season this squash with?
Pepper, salt, and chili powder.
That's right. What else do you know about butternut squash?
That they're sweet.
They're sweet, that's right. Do they grow under the ground or on top of the ground?
On top of the ground, like pumpkins do.
Yeah, and so that means if they grow like pumpkins, they take up a lot of space on the farm, right?
Yep.
We're gonna throw some of our butternut squash in here. Now we don't want to move it around too much because we want it to get color on the bottom of the squash.
Yeah, but we kind of need to space it out so they evenly cook.
That's right. Once the oil heats up, the butter will start to brown a little bit. And once the butter browns a little bit, it'll get sort of a nutty flavor, which will help with the final flavor of the butternut squash. Okay, while we're cooking our butternut squash, let's start to melt our butter for our quesadillas. So we have a second saute pan with another tablespoon of butter, and we're gonna melt it and use this to make our quesadillas. This is starting to smell really good.
It's starting to smell really sweet. And how you know your butter's melting is how it turns white when you move the butter around on the pan.
It gets kind of fatty and translucent, right?
Yeah.
You want to tip the pan up to the camera and show everybody? Good job. What do you think? Should we season our butternut squash or should we wait a little bit longer?
Season it.
Season it. Okay, I'm going to take my sea salt grinder. I recommend using kosher salt or sea salt grinder just because you can help control how much actually goes on it.
So you need to spread the butter around the pan so it evenly cooks on the quesadilla, on the stuff that's going to go, the tortillas.
That's absolutely right, Brielle. That is very good advice. Ready for the quesadilla? I'm gonna put the quesadilla on.
Yep.
Plop. And then what's next?
The cheese.
The cheese. Now, do you like cheese?
Yeah.
I love cheese. So I'm gonna go real heavy on this cheese. And just like the recipe says, we're only putting it on half of the quesadilla. And we're gonna let that cheese melt while we stir the butternut squash. That smells good. You smell it?
Yes, I can smell it.
Okay, is our cheese melting yet?
No, not quite yet.
Not quite yet. Still looks like this. Ooh, the tortilla's hot though. So while you're waiting for your cheese to melt, just periodically lift up the tortilla and make sure it's not burning. It's best to have your quesadilla on medium heat so that way it's not on high heat and you don't have to worry about it burning the bottom of the tortilla while our squash cooks. How's our butternut squash looking?
Awesome.
Yeah, should you lift it up and show the camera? You can see how it's starting to get color on all four sides of the squash, and the smell is just heavenly. I love the chili powder component. Can you smell it?
Yeah.
All right, we stir it around and see if it's starting to get soft. Butternut squash starts really hard, kind of like pumpkins.
Oh yeah,
but
that's getting soft.
when you cook it, it gets really, really soft. And the more you cook it, the softer it gets. So you can make it into a puree for chicken. You can make it into a soup. It's a great fall soup.
You could also use a spoon to kind of like turn them a little bit so they cook on all sides.
So I'm gonna scoop some of this butternut squash onto the side of the melted cheese.
And maybe if we have some left over, we can wait until it cools and try some.
Yeah, good idea. Maybe we can cool it off and eat it as a snack. What do you think?
Yeah. Probably even put them on the plate so it cools down.
Okay, so this is what it looks like after the cheese is melted and the quesadilla is brown. Our butternut squash is browned and cooked all around pretty evenly. I'm gonna take the tortilla and I'm gonna fold it in half. And you want this really golden brown color on the outside of the tortilla. This is what makes it crispy. Okay, I think our quesadilla is finished. So I'm gonna take it out of the pan very carefully and put it on a plate. Here is our butternut squash quesadilla. Brielle, are you ready for a taste test? This is my favorite part of the cooking. It's nice and soft. Your fork goes in really easily. Ready?
Really sweet.
It was really good. It was really good. Okay, should we try a bite of quesadilla now?
That's really good.
That is awesome. High five. Thank you so much for joining us for our November Kids Kits. From Brielle and myself, we'll see you in December. Happy holidays.